Imagine waking up before the sun rises and getting ready for work. No warm shower, no clean uniform, no safety equipment. You walk through the streets and arrive at your workplace. Your boss hands you a bucket, points toward an overflowing toilet, and tells you to climb inside. Or perhaps your job involves handling animal skins, soaked in urine. Maybe you spend the day breathing poisonous fumes or squeezing through chimneys, barely wider than your body. Today, a terrible job might mean long hours, an irritating manager, or painfully low pay. But throughout history, a terrible job could poison you, disfigure you, bury you alive, or kill you before adulthood. And quitting wasn't really an option. These were some of the most horrifying jobs in human history. Number 1. Cleaning Rome's clothes. Let's begin in ancient Rome. Romans loved clean clothing, especially bright white togas. Unfortunately, they didn't have washing machines. They didn't have modern detergent, and removing stains required something much stronger than ordinary water. That substance was human urine. Across Roman cities, containers collected urine from public toilets. Workers transported it to laundries known as filleries. There, clothing was placed inside large vats. Then a worker climbed in with bare feet and began stomping again and again and again. The ammonia in old urine helped remove grease and stubborn stains. It worked surprisingly well. But imagine spending your entire day ankle deep in urine, trampling strangers' dirty clothes. The smell followed you everywhere. Your feet remained soaked, and the liquid wasn't always the most disgusting ingredient. Some fullers used substances including clay, sulfur, and animal waste to clean or brighten fabric. Once the clothing was washed, it had to be rinsed, beaten, brushed, and dried. The customer received a beautifully clean toga. The fuller received another tub of urine. It was important work though. It could also make you question whether dirty clothing was really such a serious problem. Number 2. The men beneath the streets. Medieval cities had toilets. Unfortunately, many didn't have modern sewers. Waste collected inside pits beneath houses, courtyards, and public buildings. Eventually, those pits became full. Someone had to empty them. That person was sometimes called a gong farmer. Despite the name, he wasn't growing crops. He was removing human waste by hand because the smell was unbearable. Gong farmers often worked during the night. They climbed into cesspits with buckets, shovels, and very little protection. Then they scooped out months or even years of accumulated waste. Bucket by bucket, it was lifted to the surface, loaded onto carts, and transported outside the city. The work was revolting, but it was also dangerous. Cesspits could contain poisonous gases. Surprise. A worker could become dizzy, collapse, and suffocate before anyone could pull him out. The walls could cave in, wooden floors could break, and sometimes a worker simply slipped into a pit deep enough to drown. Imagine dying, not on the battlefield, but beneath a stranger's toilet. Gong farmers were often paid better than ordinary laborers. They had to be, because very few people would willingly climb down there for anything less. Number 3. Turning skin into leather. Leather was essential throughout much of history. It was used for shoes, belts, armor, bags, book covers, and countless everyday objects. But turning animal skin into durable leather was a disgusting process. The workers responsible were called tanners. Fresh animal hides arrived, covered in blood, fat, hair, and pieces of flesh. Before the hide could become leather, all of that had to be removed. Workers soaked the skin in mixtures designed to loosen the hair. Some mixtures contained lime, others contained urine. Then the hides were scraped with curved knives until the hair and tissue came away. But the process wasn't finished. To soften the hides, tanners sometimes treated them with animal dung. Dog waste was particularly useful. It contained enzymes that helped make the leather smoother and more flexible. So workers collected it from streets, mixed it with water, and rubbed it into animal skins by hand for hours. The smell from a tannery could spread across an entire neighborhood. That's why tanneries were often pushed toward the edges of towns. The chemicals damaged skin. The knives caused injuries. The filthy water could infect even a small cut. The finished leather might last for decades. The smell on the worker probably felt like it lasted almost as long. Number 4. Standing in water for leeches. Before modern medicine, doctors frequently used leeches to remove blood from patients. That created demand for enormous numbers of living leeches. But leeches didn't arrive inside convenient medical packages. Someone had to collect them. Leech collectors often waded into marshes, ponds, and muddy pools. Then they waited for the leeches to attach themselves. Sometimes collectors used horses or other animals as bait, but poorer workers could use their own legs. They stood in cold water while leeches covered their skin and drank their blood. Once enough had attached, the collector climbed out, pulled them off, and placed them into containers. Then the process began again. A successful day meant allowing dozens of parasites to feed on you. Repeated blood loss could leave workers weak, dizzy, and exhausted. The wounds could become infected. The marshes themselves could spread disease. And the demand was so high that leech populations declined in many places. Imagine being so valuable to the medical industry that your job was literally to become the medicine's lunch. Modern jobs aren't always pleasant. People still work in dangerous factories, deep mines, sewers, and difficult conditions. But today, many workers have protective equipment, safety regulations, medical knowledge, and at least some understanding of the risks they face. Throughout most of history, workers had none of that. They climbed into cesspits without breathing equipment, handled poison without gloves, entered mines without reliable lamps, and sent children into spaces adults couldn't survive. So the next time your job feels unbearable, remember, it could always be worse. Your boss could hand you a bucket, a shovel, and a candle, then point toward a hole filled with human waste. Because throughout history, the most horrifying part wasn't always the work itself. It was knowing someone had to do it, and that someone was probably you.